So it's another episode.
Why did we do this to ourselves?
I think we thought we were going to do it for charity, but ended up not having time to get the charity drive put up, and then we just did it because we thought it would be funny.
That
So
was a
this is
stupid idea.
it was. This is season 4, episode 2 of Your Book is Why Daddy Drinks. This is Tyler.
And this is Matt. And this is the post 50 Shades of Grey the movie podcast.
I think they should have called it 50 Shades of Grey, the motion picture.
Yeah, because that would
It
be.
would have made it better.
Nah, that wouldn't have made it better. Um, so with Yeah, so listening audience, last Friday I flew down to Southern California and decided to go pay a visit to Tyler. And we decided that what the hell? My wife was totally down for my suffering and decided that she'd pay for my plane tickets if I went and saw the movie. And well, there was also a gaming convention down there this weekend, so I was like, well, I'll maybe the price of watching the movie would be worth the price of the ticket, and in addition to getting to go to the gaming convention. Um, yeah, the gaming convention was fun, but that movie was terrible and horrible and all other kinds of adjectives for that sort of thing.
I don't think it was that bad. I really don't think it was that bad.
Well,
I think it was better than the book. It was
yeah,
significantly better than the book because they paid someone professional to write it.
yeah, but when you start with zero, it's not that difficult to go up, right? Like, while there might be negative numbers in math, it's very difficult for it to kind of well, the book was terrible, so the worst the movie can be is terrible. So by any, it can only get better. Um, so yeah, I mean, if you've listened to our Fifty Shades of Grey podcast, then you know the general plot of the book, and the movie fundamentally is no different in the meta grand scheme of things. They're still Christian, they're still Anna. Um, their relationship hits most of the same major plot points. There's the her tripping her way into his office and the horrible interview. There's him showing up randomly at her work, which means he's either done a whole lot of stalking on the internet or had her followed. Then the whole scene with Jose, where Anna drinks a whole lot and Jose comes onto her and tries to kiss her despite her telling her no. Um, the night they spend together in the hotel afterwards. Then the building of the relationship multiple times. They have sex. The reveal that she's going to go back to Georgia to get away from him for a little bit and see her mom. And then finally, the culmination of the book, which ends with her demanding that Christian show how bad it could be. When he punishes her, and then she receives 6 spanks on the ass with a belt, and apparently those 6 spanks are different than the other spankings she'd received in the book/movie, and she thinks he's a monster, tells him not to touch her ever again, and she leaves. And that's it. That's the whole meta plot of the TLDR version of the plot for both the book and the movie. But they did make some changes. Ty, did you notice any scenes from the book that weren't present in the movie?
The graphic depiction of the blood after the first time they had sex was gone.
Also gone.
He said, "You're a virgin. Let's take care of that." There was no cleanup
Yeah, there.
that happened in the book.
Also, I know that. Also, there was no any indication that losing her virginity was like a physical thing, right? Like it didn't seem like there was any pain or anything like that, despite the difference in the book. Also gone, speaking of blood, is the scene where Christian basically pulls out her tampon and they have sex while she's on her period. That's gone.
I'd forgotten that happened.
Yep. Here I am to remind you. Um, Like,
I think in the movie, Christian was slightly less emotionally abusive towards her and slightly less creepy and controlling. He was still creepy and controlling, as evidenced by the time he showed up in her apartment.
after she
And
texted him basically a goodbye text,
right,
right?
and when he showed up at the, it wasn't that he showed up at the hotel she was in Georgia. It was
Hmm.
that he texted her, "You're having another drink." That's fucking creepy and stalkerish.
Which meant that he had been watching her for some time. I mean, there's also, you know, they also did tone down like his anger, right? Like, I don't know if it felt like this way with you, but like for me in the book, he came across as very like angry like a fair amount of the time. Case in point being, um, before they really start getting into their relationship, Jose has like a photography, I don't know, show exhibition, something where his basically it's his photographs that are up and people are looking at them. And he's high on life, and they go out for celebratory drinks. Anna and her roommate and Jose, and Anna gets fucked up and trashed. And this is when Jose makes his move. And keeps trying to kiss her despite Anna telling him no. And then Christian shows up. Now, in the book, Christian's like pissed, like furious that she would get drunk and put herself at risk. Um, and like basically ordering her to never drink again and all of this other crap. And he just came across as like this super creepy asshole, especially when you consider the fact that Anna didn't tell him which bar she was in, and he
Yeah.
magically shows up at the one bar out of all of the bars in Portland where she's at, which either means he was following her or had someone following her, or he did some sort of like weird cell phone tracking bullshit. Uh, Regardless,
Or he called her roommate. Said, "Hey, where are
maybe
you
I guess
guys? I'd like to come hang out with you." And her roommate, of course, went, "Oh yeah, you're totally into my friend. Here's the information." But
that
they didn't
that's
explain that, so it just looks super creepy because he just
yeah.
showed up. And
If they had
that
done it,
scene
then
actually,
yeah.
that scene actually is my biggest problem with the movie.
Hmm.
Christian shows up, punches out Jose, right? Who was just previously sexually
Do-
assaulting
doesn't
Anna.
even doesn't even punch him out. Just she gives him a shove.
Shoves him,
Right? She says
and
no.
Christian and Anna leave, and nothing ever gets mentioned about the scene again, other
Well,
than
that's
Jose called for you a couple of times, but
yeah. There's that.
never again is the fact that, hey, this person that you considered a friend tried to force himself on you
Yeah,
while you were drunk.
yeah. And I mean, they at least do kind of close the circle on it in the book. Like, don't they have
Right.
like a kind of reconciliation scene where he apologizes and Anna's kind of like, "Sure thing, dude," but yeah, we're kind of
Yes.
done. Um, But yeah, I mean, and in that scene in the movie, Christian comes across as more concerned, right? Like he didn't strike me as being angry. I mean, it was still creepy that he knew exactly where she was, but like, I've had friends call me who were super fucked up and depressed, and I've been concerned for them and gone to go visit them. So, you know, but then again, I knew where they were, and I had a previously existing relationship where that kind of behavior is okay.
Yeah, he didn't get really creepy until he said he presented her the idea of their whole contract and said, "Hey, Google this word, submissives." She spends 3 seconds on a Google image search and says, "Fuck this, I'm out." So she texts him, "Nice knowing you," and then he shows up in her apartment,
Yeah,
not at her apartment, in her apartment.
yeah. No knock, no nothing. Just
Now
comes in.
that was probably the roommate let him in, but they never explain it, so he's just magically there, and it's fucking creepy as shit.
Yeah, because he's got like two wine glasses and a bottle of white, and like he's like, "Nice knowing you," really, and like she's like in bed, wearing nothing but a pair of panties and a long t-shirt. And there's this dude she hardly knows just walks into her apartment and starts
No, no,
kind of
it's
getting
cool
confrontational.
because it's
I mean,
cool because he's a sexy billionaire.
I guess,
If
but
this dude was a poor uh, computer
unattractive.
programmer with
Yeah,
fucking cystic acne, he would be in jail.
yeah. I mean, this whole, it kind of just goes back to the whole bit with the book where I'm like, I don't want this to be like a point of reference or an example for anyone ever to behave. Like, I don't want anybody to go, oh, Christian, but fuck Christian Grey. He's a creeper. Um, what else? They took out the scene with the headphones where they're doing the scene to like the music. And
Mhm.
they sort of did that. Like there was a scene where she's wearing a blindfold and he flogs her a couple of times and uses an ice cube, and so that might have been it. Um,
They toned the sex scenes way down, presumably to avoid an NC-17 rating.
I know that was the reason why they cut the scene with the tampon, like specifically. Like I read an article that they had. I don't know if they filmed it or they had approached the what is it, MPAA, and the MPAA was like, oh no, yeah, movies are okay, menstrual blood, oh no no, that won't do. Um, what else? Yeah, the only time he really gets angry was at the dinner scene where Anna meets his family. So
Right.
you saw it. I was in the hallway at the time, so why don't you talk about that?
When Anna meets the family and the mom asks her about her family, and she's like, "Oh yeah, my mom lives in Georgia, and actually I'm going to visit her tomorrow." And Christian, at that point, who's got his hand on her leg under the table, digs his fingers into her and is like, "I wasn't informed of this. When were you going to tell me?" And that's the super creepy controlling part of him coming out. That is the biggest problem people have with the book and the characters and all that. That it's not a healthy relationship, and that there's this there is this concern that seeing this movie or reading this book with a character like that and having everything turn out okay is going to convince people to stay in abusive relationships
Well, at
by
the end,
saying this is normal. See, if you it's okay to be with a sexy billionaire if he treats you like shit.
well, yeah, and also, I mean, when you take it all the way, I mean, granted, we haven't read the other two books, and I don't intend to, but like, in the end, it works out because it's a fan fiction from Twilight, and of course, Bella has to get Edward, and so Anna has to get, Christian. Um, yeah, and then the everything else was pretty much the same. Um, and the final scene of the movie was pretty much played out like the final scene of the book, where they're having a fight basically about how Christian can't have just a normal relationship and how Anna hasn't signed the damn contract, which always gets me because it's like you spent this entire movie and book fucking ignoring the contract, doing all kinds of shit that is
Right.
supposed to be
He
covered by
gives her
the
all these
contract.
rules. He gives her all these rules about himself that he perpetually breaks.
Yeah,
Like
just
he sleeps next to her when she's drunk. He sleeps in the same bed with her, and then goes, "Well, I don't sleep with people."
he then also sleeps with.
After he's already shown her that he does, and then the first time they have sex, he sleeps next to her again. He sleeps next
And
to her several times, while all the time saying, "Well, I don't sleep next to people."
And then he also says he doesn't have vanilla sex, sex free from anything kinky, and yet the first time they have sex when he's quote unquote taking care of her situation, I don't think there's any kinky. I mean, like maybe he holds her hands down, but that's not anything that a vanilla couple couldn't do while having sex. So I don't really
I
consider that
think
particularly
I
kinky.
think the first 4 times they have sex in that movie, there's no bondage.
Well, I know that the scene when he
The first
shows up
one,
her.
the first one that's on screen is when he takes her virginity. That's completely normal.
Yeah.
And then he's up playing the piano and she walks out and they have sex again. It doesn't happen on screen, but he picks her up and you know they're going to go have sex.
Yeah,
Then they
because
have
she's
sex in the
like listening to
bathtub.
it.
They have sex again in the bathtub and then again at her apartment. All of those are normal. Oh no, he uses a necktie on her.
Yeah, the tie happens when they're fooling around, they're starting to get into it, and then his mom shows up,
Right.
and then
The
after
next
that,
morning.
and then the after that is the thanks for everything, creepy. I'm in your apartment. The call came from inside the apartment. Um, and that's when he takes off the tie and does that again.
Right. Right.
Um,
Um, I don't know. I truly don't believe that the movie is as bad as people want to believe it is. It's not a good movie.
no.
I would rate it somewhere along the direct to Cinemax movies that you could probably see late at night.
Mm.
Except this one made $82 million, so we know that there's going to be sequels. Um, but I really don't think it's as bad as a lot of people wanted it to be. People who didn't read the book and aren't going to go see the movie are talking about how awful it is, annoy the shit out of me because
Because they
they have
haven't
no
seen
idea.
it and they haven't read it. Yeah. I mean, I don't think that the couple that they cast for Anna and Christian, I don't think they had any fucking chemistry.
Oh no,
There
not at
was
all.
no chemistry, and like some of the cinematography of the movie, you know, like some of the shots, like there's this one early on. So after Anna has the interview with Christian, she's taken a Christian Grey or whatever Grey House or whatever the
Oh
fuck his name
god,
of his
the
company
fucking
is.
pencil.
Yeah, and she's got his pencil, and there's this whole shot about maybe 5 to 10 seconds of her running this pencil around her lips, and it's like,
It's
okay,
obviously an analog for his dick.
yeah, and
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 everyone in our theater audience picked up on that, and that was when the laughter started.
yeah. But I mean, you had commented that the even the shots themselves, like from one scene to one scene, like
There were so many shots where it went from a super dark scene to a super bright scene. And I don't know if I'm just more photosensitive than I have been in the past, but that really fucking killed my eyes. And I had to literally look away from the screen every time that happened.
yeah.
And every time I looked away from the screen, I looked at our friend sitting next to his girlfriend with his
my,
hands God knows where, and then I
my
had to
buddy,
look back at the screen.
my buddy.
Um,
Well, we'll talk about my buddy
it was
in
just
a little bit.
it was not a well-made film, but I don't think it was this ruination of a subculture or anything like that. Like people are claiming it is. It's just a
Yeah.
shitty movie.
So, is there anything from it that you thought was good compared to movie to book?
Um, Aside from writing, the writing and the dialogue being slightly better than what was in the book, and not having to read stupid shit like the elevator went up at terminal velocity.
But that was illustrated in the movie.
Not really. I mean, the elevator went up quickly.
Well,
But
if
it
you
wasn't like she fucking fell down or floated or
But
anything.
but if you, I mean, the thing is like, there's a moment where like the elevator like jerks and like she like twitches, and that's when I turned to you. I'm like, that's it. That's the moment where she went up at terminal velocity, and like, it's just it just struck me as funny because it's such a stupid part of the book.
I still didn't have to read going up at terminal velocity.
This
So
is true.
that was better than the book.
This is true.
The other thing that made it better than the book was that it took me about 8 hours to read the book, It
Hmm.
took me 2 hours to watch the movie.
Yeah.
Um, it that's really it. Just that the writing was somewhat better. The chemistry between the two characters was awful. I would say that Thor and Jane
Hmm.
from Thor and Thor 2 have more chemistry than these two.
And they really don't have
And
any
they really
at
don't
all.
have it. Actually, Bill, at one point we were at Disneyland, and this is talking about Thor, not this movie,
Mhm.
just because it's a funny comment. We're at Disneyland, and we're actually in line at Innoventions to go see the Thor, to go meet Thor.
Hmm.
And we're talking about having just seen Dark World, and he says, "I bet it would actually be really great to date Natalie Portman." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, she's hot, really?" And he goes, "No, no, no, not because of that. Because you'd really know she's in love with you because she clearly can't fake it." That's how I feel about the characters in this movie.
Yeah. Um, I do think I found some things actually when I was writing up my review of the movie earlier that I thought was good were good. One, they did not show him using the goddamn
Oh
zip
yeah,
tie. They call it
yeah.
cable ties. They didn't use it, and they
I think that's
reread
because Zip Tie is actually a
the
brand
brand,
name.
maybe.
Yeah.
But they it comes up during the scene where they're negotiating the contract, and he goes cable ties, and she just kind of looks at him, gives him the smile, and then shakes her head, which thank fucking God. Um,
I do have to say the movie was funnier than the book.
yes,
Specifically, that contract negotiation scene was
yeah,
actually pretty funny when she's like, "What's a butt plug?"
yeah.
Out of all the things she could ask about, that one's pretty much the most self-explanatory.
Well, and the funny the in the bit where she's like, cross anal fisting right off,
Right.
strike vaginal fisting too, and he goes, really? And she's like, uh-huh. She's like, you might like it. And she's like, no. And like, yeah, there was some humor there. And actually, I thought that they did, um, because like in the book, they just had the fucking contract written out. And I thought that the
Mm-hmm.
movie handled it a little bit more artistically in a way that still conveyed what the contract covered, but without like going in depth into it. And even for as in depth as the characters did do while they were discussing it, it wasn't that bad. Um, I will say that, like you were saying regarding the writing, I'm so thankful I didn't have to hear the words inner goddess once during that
Oh
fucking
yeah.
movie. Um, so in the book, for listening audience, E.L. James has Anna reference her inner goddess like every other fucking page. Her inner goddess did this. Her inner goddess did that. Her inner goddess baked a fucking cake, danced the samba. Her inner goddess. It's just it, the fact that the idea that anyone could think of themselves in such a pretentious third person fashion is just fucking annoying and ridiculous. And that was one thing that the movie that I never had to deal with was that, which I'm very thankful for. Um, I will say this that for as toned down and as kind of as like sex advice column from from Cosmo, quality sex that it was, Christian used a condom. I think almost every time you saw them actually having sex on screen, which
Yes.
which I was like, oh, okay, good. And I think I remember that happening in the book, which is good because I think having uh, you know, sexual protection being positively shown in the movie is definitely good. Um, but yeah, I think that's generally it for the good thing. Oh, I will say there was one. Um, Anna straight up at one point fucking mocks Christian straight to his goddamn face for pulling an Edward. Like there's a scene where she's like, "Oh, stay away from me, Anna. I'm scary, but I have to be." Like she does that. She actually like straight teases him straight to his face about it, and I thought that was pretty awesome.
That was good. Um, I think one of my biggest problems with the movie, the entire movie, is that it's not a complete movie.
Oh, sure. I mean, that
They
was one
did
of
the
our problems with the
bullshit
book.
thing that they did with the book of here's the first third of a book,
Yeah.
or here's the first third of a movie. There's no character development, nobody changes, and there really is no major conflict that gets resolved. It ends without anything being resolved. So, fuck you guys for doing that.
Um, I do think that one of my issues with it is that I think the movie actually does a good thing of highlighting it. Like, so one of the things I brought up on the podcast for the book was that the series ends with Christian basically giving up his BDSM for Anna because she can't deal. And I was thinking about it. I mean, for as bad as Christian is um, during the entire movie with violating Anna's personal space and her boundaries and everything, Anna is bad as well in that regard, at least with the violating boundaries. You know, Christian's straight up honest with her, with what he likes, with what he's into, and why. Um, and the entire time, Anna is basically trying to force him to do things that he is not comfortable with doing. Um, and I mean, do I think that what she's doing is as bad as what he's doing? No, because you know, I think a grown-ass, mature adult would be able to say, you know, I this is the type of sex that I want and need, and if you can't provide it, then well, see ya. You know, it's there's no hint of malice or threat that Anna's gonna beat the shit out of him if he doesn't sleep next to her after having sex. But you know, he was upfront and square with her about this is how I like my sex, and Anna's like, I can't take it, even up to the very end. Like the end scene, felt a little rapey to me in some ways because it's very clear Anna's not into this punishment, even though she asked to be punished. Um, and she asked for it, she consented to it, and while I think that an actual top would have seen that no, really, she's not into it and wouldn't have gone forward with it, Christian still does. And instead of taking personal responsibility for not safe wording or not going through with it, she doesn't. And then she punishes him for it by basically making him feel like he's fucking horrible and broken and a terrible person. Um,
Right, but that scene is also designed to show you that Christian is a broken person
sure,
because
and
he's spanking the shit out of her and really enjoying it and not stopping when she's not enjoying it. That
yeah,
the whole thing is basically because just before that scene was the attempt at working the title in when he said he was 50 Shades of fucked up. He was straight up telling her, I am damaged. This is how I deal with it. If you can't handle that, get the fuck out.
yeah, and then she says, "Well, I want to. I want you to show me." And it's
Right.
like, you know, um, but yeah. Anyway, um, let's talk about the watching experience because that was so much more entertaining than the movie.
Now, I feel bad for anybody who's going to listen to this podcast now because they will never be able to have the experience that we did when we saw this movie. Everyone who made our experience what it was has already seen this movie and is not going to go see it again.
And also, I think it was one of those instances where it was just the being in the right place at the right time, right? Like,
Oh yeah, it
um,
was absolutely the right combination of people, the right amount of alcohol, and the right amount of not taking yourself too seriously.
yeah. So, Tyler and I went to this theater in Southern
The
California.
ArcLight Sherman Oaks, I highly recommend it.
Yep.
If you're looking for a somewhat affordable movie, we were going to go see it at the iPic in Pasadena, which is the really nice theater with the reclining chairs, and they'll bring you alcohol to your seat. But the Sherman Oaks was the iPic was completely sold out for like all weekend.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous. Sherman Oaks still had seats left. I believe the theater was sold out before before the movie started. Um, but it's the interesting thing about theaters with assigned seating is there's no reason to show up early. You can show up even a few minutes after the movie starts, like a lot of people did. A lot of people came in during the trailers, and I really wish I had bet someone money on this. As the movie is starting, I'm thinking, there's going to be a fucking Nicholas Sparks trailer. And there was. But, so we go in and we sit down, and the theaters, we're like 10 minutes early. We've got our drinks. The theater is like only a quarter full. And I'm thinking, thank God America has not let me down and that people aren't really coming to see this movie. And then the movie started, and then it filled up.
Yeah.
And I was really concerned because 2/3 to 3/4 of the audience was female. Many of them in packs. Many of them in heavily, overly perfumed packs.
Yeah, like and when we say women, I mean like somewhere between 40 and my mom. Like somewhere hovering in
I would
that
say
age.
there were some 30-somethings in there, but no one under. Well, it was a 21 and up showing, but I'm pretty sure there was no one in that audience under 30.
No, I would be very surprised.
And I was a little concerned because I know the ladies tend to get a little rowdy when it comes to things like this, and there's alcohol involved, and I was a little bit worried that an usher was going to have to drag somebody out of that theater.
Yep, that didn't happen.
That did not happen. Our first exciting moment happened shortly after the lights went down.
Yes, and so
I'll let you tell this one because this dude is your BFF.
Yeah, that's my bro. So we're sitting there, and to set the scene, Tyler and I are in the uppermost row, and we are sitting
Two seats from the end.
2 seats from the end, and sitting down on my left is this couple, and this Hispanic couple, and as the lights come down, the guy lets out this like "woo," which of course kicks off the theater, and everyone.
The theater lost their fucking minds.
And I don't think there was a single male voice in there. Every woman in there is like, "Yeah, woo!" You know, and I just turn and look at him. I'm like, "Look what you've done!" And he grins at me and points at his significant other or whatever she is, and who's laughing. He goes, "Man," "I'm just paying my dues, bro." And so I'm like, "Okay, respect," and fist bump. And from then
At that
on,
moment,
we shared a bond.
At that moment, I knew that the audience was with us on this one, that we were all taking this journey together, and that no one was going to take it too seriously.
So you tell the next part.
Evidenced when there were a group of ladies in front of me. And while Matt was chatting with his new Latino best friend, I was paying attention to these ladies in front of me because every time Christian Grey appeared on screen and said anything or did anything or moved or breathed, a couple of these women would let out these little gasps. Oh, and it's like, okay.
After a while,
this is hilarious.
They were gonna like pass.
Hyperventilate. Yeah. And I'm just like, okay, so that's the type of people you are in front of me. Until Christian says to Anna, "I want to show you my playroom," and he puts out his hand and says, "Come." And this woman in front of me, I would say 35 to 45 at some point, goes, "That's the plan." And the theater lost its fucking mind again.
So theater loses its mind. Tyler and I like have killed our drinks. It's maybe what 25-30 minutes into the movie.
Maybe 20
We're
minutes in.
we're looking at at almost 2 hours more, and I look at Tyler. I'm like, I need more booze. I can't do this dry. And we get up and we leave. We head down. We go to the bar, which is just outside the theater. We get our drinks. We come back inside, and as we're sitting down, my new BFF leads over, and goes, "Oh, thank God! I thought you guys left me." like, like we're in this together, bro. Like, it just like, and yeah,
Now,
they
at one point, there is some dialogue that is so bad, it makes Matt cringe and lean forward and just rest his face in his hands because it's so bad. And Matt's friend reaches over and pats him on the back to let him know that everything's going to be okay.
so after that, more of the movie goes on, and I think it's right after the first sex scene. Um, when the guy and his girlfriend stand up, and he leans in to tell me, because like I fucking need to know.
You had to know this.
He leans in to tell me, he goes, "We'll be back in 10 minutes," and they go walking out of the theater. And I look at Tyler, I'm like, are they gonna go fuck in the bathroom? Like, what's going on here?
To which I responded, and like so matter of factly that I'm thinking about it now, and I'm like, it just fucking kills me. Oh no, you can't do that here. They're probably going to his car.
But no, they come back. They just went to go get drinks like we did, and so the movie progresses. And Tyler, you had an encounter with the guy on your right, if I remember correctly.
Yes. He went up to go get some beers for him and his lady friend, and his lady friend was fairly attractive. She walked past me a couple of times, and I noticed. But he comes back with a couple of beers, sits down during the scene where they're discussing the contract, and Christian says, "I'd like to fuck you into the middle of next week." And this dude sits as that line comes out as he's sitting down, and that dude looks at me and goes, "Fuck." and I just lost it because that was goddamn hilarious. But later on in the movie, we found out why Matt's friend didn't actually need to go to his car.
And so we're watching, and I'm watching the stupid film, and at one point, like, my elbow gets jostled, and I look to my left, and then I immediately start elbowing Tyler to get his attention, and we look over, and this dude is like curled up on top of his girlfriend or whatever she was, and all you can see of her.
I'm going to say girlfriend because nobody does this to their wife in public.
Oh, I don't know.
Rather, nobody's wife lets them do this to them in public.
And her leg is up over his thighs, so her legs were spread open, and they were doing whatever they were doing. I wasn't gonna be crass enough to look to get an exact telling, but they were distracted, and
So you're not crass enough to look, but you are crass enough to go, "Yeah, get it."
yeah. I didn't say yeah, get it to that. That was actually a lady said
"Get it."
no. I said that in response to something that was happening on screen, not to them. That would be fucked up. I don't know that dude that well. I mean, if I
Okay.
did, I would have.
The
said
timing made it seem like otherwise.
no. But yeah, I mean, just it was a fairly rowdy crowd. Like, I mean, I went and go ahead.
I was going to say, I will say, for as rowdy as they were, during the first sex scene, that theater was dead silent.
Oh yeah.
Completely silent. Not a sound was made in that theater for the 3 minutes that the first sex scene entailed.
Yeah. I will say that, like, when you're going to go see a really horrible movie, that is widely talked about, right? You need to go see it on the opening night. Um, so
Yep.
like, so I went and actually paid full price to see Snakes on a Plane on opening night in the theater, and I went with a group of friends. The theater was completely sold out, and the whole audience was in on the fact that this movie was going to be shit. It was going to be bad, and it was and seeing it with the audience was what made it at least tolerable. Like at one point during the movie, like you get the shot is like from the snake's perspective, and almost to every single person in that theater at the same time when the camera turned green and you saw things from the snake's vantage point, everyone in the fucking theater shouted "Snake Cam" at the same time, and
Now,
you miss out on that stuff if you go later
right.
after. You miss out on that stuff on opening night. So for movies like that, you have to see it. If you're going to see it in the theater, you have to see it on opening night.
Like if you go to see The Hobbit 2 weeks after it comes out, you're not going to see anybody dressed like hobbits and elves and shit.
You know what though? Fuck those people. Fuck them
Wait, the
because
people who dress like hobbits and elves?
oh my god. So
Wait, fuck the LARPers?
yeah, seriously, I'm going to say it. Yes. So, and I say that because the first fucking Lord of the Rings movie I saw in Santa Cruz, and I unfortunately sat right in front of a pair of goddamn stoners who did nothing but giggle about Hobbit weed during the entire fucking movie. The second Lord of the Rings movie, I got fucking stuck next to a couple of Merry and Pippin fucking fangirls who shrieked at a decibel that would hurt dogs' ears every time those fucking hobbits showed up on screen, to the point where I finally had to tell them to shut the fuck up. They couldn't hear them and to just stop. And just, oh my god, it was so irritating. So yes, I don't like those people. Fuck them.
Anyway, those people are the ones who enhance bad movies. So, I mean, if it's a movie you really want to see, don't go see it opening night because there's going to be some dickhead who ruins. Oh, except Spider-Man 3. I guess that was a bad movie. That
No,
movie, that movie was made for me at a midnight showing by, I would say, an 11 or 12-year-old kid.
why?
If even that old. So there's the scene. It's like shortly after he gets the symbiote suit,
Uh huh.
and he's like doing the fucking strut down the street, and he goes to the piano bar,
Uh huh.
and he meets Mary Jane there, and he goes, "Oh, Mary Jane's here," and then he gets a little crazy, and he slaps her across the face. He slaps her, and the theater gets completely silent because fuck, that was a very comedic scene, and it just got super dark.
Yeah.
But he slaps her across the face, and it gets super quiet, and from like the third row, you hear this voice, "Spider-Man, what have you done?" And you could just hear that child hero worship of Spider-Man has just been shattered because he hit Mary Jane. And that made me lose my shit. To the point, the people I went and saw it with were angry at me because I was laughing so hard at this poor child.
Oh, that's fucked up.
And that's how I know I'm a terrible person.
You are. I would normally argue, be like, no, you're not. Yeah, you are. That's fucked.
All right. We're at about 45 minutes now, so I think we're at
Yeah,
a good wrapping point.
I think we are
We've
too.
shared our. Do you have any final thoughts on 50 Shades of Grey, the motion picture?
I'm sad that there are going to be two more movie versions. I really am. I'm. I will say this. Honestly, if you're going to go see this movie for the kink, because it's a mainstream, socially acceptable movie to see, kink on screen in a theater, skip it. Because honestly, the sex in this movie is no more graphic or spicy than you could find in a sex advice column in Cosmo. Um, there is a flogger used once, and it's like he like smacks her with it 4 times, and that's it. This is not a kinky film. I would argue that this is not a kinky film. There's more kinky shit discussed than actually done. If you want to see a more mainstream kinky film, watch Secretary. Hell, the main character's name is even Gray. His name is Gray. It's Mr. Gray. Um, James Spader and Maggie Gyllenhaal have a lot better screen chemistry. There's certainly more kink. There's more kink used. There's more examples of kink, both physical restraint, like there's a restraint bar used at one scene, to a lot of DS, dominant submission, and the movie.
He fucking ties her to a tree and fucks her, doesn't he?
That's the little bit of spoilers, but yeah, that's towards the end. But I mean, the thing is that in that movie, he is also a damaged and emotionally unavailable person, but that's who his character is. It's not because of his kink. He
But
uses
so
his,
is she. She absolutely is too, and it helps them both.
yes, and the thing is that he uses his kink, um, and the structure of their sexual relationship as kind of a shield almost, because he's in this role and she's in this clearly defined role, and there is no emotional connection, or he tries very hard for there not to be. And for her, the kink is actually helpful, because it helps give her life structure. The movie starts out and she does self-harm to herself, and it's James Spader's character, in his role as her dominant, that gets her to stop hurting herself. And unlike 50 Shades of Grey, where the BDSM is kind of like a symptom of him being fucked up, which is a statement on, in some ways, BDSM itself, because in from 50 Shades of Grey, you only do BDSM if you're fucked up, because Anna's not fucked up and isn't into it. With Secretary, it's just how the relationship is, but they both mutually participate in it and both mutually enjoy it. And it's just, I think, a better example of what a healthy BDSM can be. Um, it's certainly one example of it. And it's just, in my opinion, it was just a better film. It's better shot, better acted, better written, and actually is a full film and ends in a very positive way.
Not only is his name Gray, his name is Edward Gray.
That's funny. So, I mean, honestly, if that's what you want, you're interested in, that's what your interest lies in 50 Shades of Grey, is seeing the kink on screen, just rent Secretary. You'll get more kink in that than you would in 50 Shades of Grey, and also it's a more entertaining story, in my opinion.
You can get it digitally on iTunes, Google Play, Vudu, YouTube, and the Sony Entertainment Network.
See, there you go. Tons of ways for you to get it.
Unfortunately, it's not available for streaming anywhere yet.
Oh, lame. But that's it. That's all I've got as far as.
I was going to make the same recommendation for Secretary, so I think we're covered. Stay tuned. In a couple of weeks, we will have, actually, like in a week, we should have our next episode up. Yeah, sometime late next week. Next episode, Prophet of the Ghost Ants. This looks like, oh my god, this book is going to be fantastic. After 50 Shades of Grey, this book is going to be a breath of fresh air.
So, this book, the premise is so ridiculous, and yet it has almost no negative reviews on Amazon.
Yeah.
It's I'm
going to be amazing.
I'm honestly, I am seriously interested to find out more about this bizarre book. But yeah, I downloaded it today. I'm going to start reading it tomorrow and hopefully have it finished by the weekend. But yes, Buffett.
I have to go to the DMV tomorrow, so I'm probably going to finish it there.
Nice. Yeah, I need to check and see how long it is, but um, yeah. So that's it. And then also something that Tyler and I need to get set up. March, we are going to do. We actually should get this set up as soon as possible. We want to do a charity drive, and we want to do it so that basically, if we hit our initial amount, when Tyler is up here at the end of March, we are going to not only read the second book in the Divergent series, which I think is what, Insurgent? I think that's
Yeah.
Insurgent. We will watch Divergent and then go and watch Insurgent in the theater, and we will. You'll get lots of recordings in the month of March if we're successful. So that's something we need to get set up right away so we can get that started. But yeah, that's what we've got going on for March. So podcast next week, and then March is going to be very full of shitty books and shitty movies for us. So I think that's it. You have anything more you want to add?
I do not.
Okay, then let's end this crap. All right. Thank you very much for joining us for Season 4, Episode 2. This is the 50 Shades of Grey post-movie viewing podcast. I am Matt.
This is Tyler.
And this is the end. Good night.
Good night.